My name is Sylvia Ortiz-Velez. I'm a steering committee member of Citizen Action of Wisconsin. We represent about 900 people across the state, and about 150 of those are small business owners. Like myself, I've been a real estate broker for over 15 years. I also have a degree in political science, and I was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm their spokesperson, and I bring their concerns to this body. We represent restaurants, hair salons, auto mechanics, bakeries, supermarkets, and many, many other types of businesses. From the beginning of this year, we have noticed a shift in consumer and investment confidence. People are afraid. They're saving their money in case of deportation. They're afraid to invest in real estate because they don't want to lose their assets. I've seen that. I've been seeing that happen since 2007, since the federal government hasn't come to an agreement on immigration reform. The concern is also that people are staying home more because they are afraid to leave their homes. This creates a decrease in revenue for small businesses, thereby creating a decrease in local tax revenue, which has an effect on the local and state economy. And I want to tell this body that the Latino community, the small businesses in the Latino community, is one of the most untapped resources in our state where we can look for job creation. I want to remind the body that. The business owners are also concerned about public safety. The crimes are being committed and not being reported, how that will affect the economy. The current political environment is fostering fear, hate, and division, which is resulting in a decrease in consumer investment confidence. Now, I just want to address the body briefly, just about some of my own personal concerns. After reading the bill, there are some questions that pop up to my mind. One of them is the bill seems to give the sheriffs in each of these counties a lot of power in making decisions that won't give us a standard if this bill is passed across our state and how this is going to be enforced. And to me, it seems like this really is a federal issue, and the state, it seems like we would be adding an extra layer of government to the process. Also, I'd like to ask this body if it thinks the state, if it's really the role of the state to really enforce, federal laws in the first place. That's my question. And also, what was stated before is that this body may not intend for this bill to be passed to create racism, but people will take the opportunity, unfortunately, to use this bill as a way to promote racism. And not only towards criminals, this affects a lot more people. I'm a citizen. I was born here and raised here, but I can also experience racial profiling from the police, but not only that, from criminals, to be quite frank. There have been a rash of crimes in my community by people who have committed crimes against people who don't want to come forward because they know they won't. So criminals are also using this to profile us. And all of us. It affects citizens, non-citizens, everyone. So I just wanted to leave that with the body. Thank you. Is there any questions, sir?
Who, I don't want to get are all three of you together?
Senator Nass, yes. My name is Luz Sosa. I'm just the organizer for Citizen Action of Wisconsin, and I'm just bringing my members so that they can speak to you.
Well, that's okay. I just want to make sure we just go down the line in case somebody else. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, my name is H. Goodson. I'm from Milwaukee, and I'm here just in case you're not aware, but Latinos in Wisconsin have contributed to the state, and it's because of their achievement. This Wisconsin has been prosperous, if you're not aware of that. But back in 1970, the Latino community got involved with civil rights, in which in that year, late 1960s and the early 1970s, Latinos were kept from enrolling into higher education, especially UWM system. And our community rose up and challenged that policy that discriminated against Latinos, because UWM Milwaukee especially, there were only 15 students compared to 25 Anglo-Saxon students. And it took weeks, but our community succeeded. And what happened after that, it opened the doors of education, not just for Latinos, but poor whites, Asians, Native Americans, and a lot of people that were disfranchised back in those years, that they couldn't get educated. That's why today, I got an education. These ladies with me are educated, and most of the people behind me are educated. In Wisconsin, it's a high rate of educated Latinos and non-Latinos. And that's one of the reasons why they got so educated. And we need to understand that Latinos, especially a couple of summers ago, if you're not aware of that either, Latinos became we surpassed the Afro-American community in the state. And in 2010, there was a study that came out that Latinos, especially undocumented immigrants, contributed over $96 million to this state. That's included in personal income, property, and sales taxes. And also, if you're not aware, today, Mexico and Wisconsin have a $3.5 billion trade agreement. And that just for you to understand what the Latino community has contributed to this state in helping it to move forward. And this kind of bill, as you're aware, I'm sure by now by today's testimony, that it's going to be challenged. What this committee should be looking now into is, does the state of Wisconsin have enough funds, if it's in a deficit, budget deficit, does it have enough funds to spend millions of dollars to defend this bill, which is considered anti-immigrant, not just here in the state of Wisconsin, but nationwide? And also, instead of spending those millions of dollars, waste taxpayers' dollars, why don't you devote that money to law enforcement? Yeah, there's plenty of them down here. I mean, they need money to enforce the laws and work with communities, not just certain communities, but with Latin American community too, to work to make this state better, to make it a state that we can all live and work together instead of coming here. Because one thing I've been here for decades, and one thing I've noticed is that the status quo, which are where you're sitting at, mostly are Anglo-Saxons, are white. They've never given us anything in return. We pay taxes. We invest millions of dollars in the state. We're part of this state. And we're here to let you know that, hey, what you're doing today is going to affect our community, not just our community, any person of color. We're going to be profiled. And you're aware, if you're aware and you keep up with laws, the statewide, Arizona has been challenged. Texas has been challenged. And especially the detainer. You already know the Galarza versus Pennsylvania. An appeals court ruled already there that those ICE detainers are not legal binding. So why are you trying to pass legislation forcing law enforcement to commit an illegal act? That's senseless. I mean, come on. Hey, we're part of this state, and when it affects one member of our community, it affects all our community. We're part of Wisconsin. So I'm here just to say, you should be thinking, because I know you're going to do whatever you're going to do, but I hope common sense kicks in and says, hey, why waste money on this? Let federal law take its course. And just in case you're not aware, in court, look at any criminal case, go to CCAP, and it tells you right there in every case, if the person gets convicted, it's gonna affect their immigration status, either here legally or not. So it's already being processed in the courts. So why do we need this type of legislation? It doesn't make no sense. All it is just bringing up division in our community, not just in the south side of Milwaukee, but statewide. Do we really want to be in the process of dividing our state instead of working together? We have a lot of leaders in our community that can work with youth state the way it is, it should be moving, prosperous. We contribute to the state. Don't treat us like second class, because we're not second class. We're educated. We're part of this state. And that's why I'm here to let you know that our community is part of the state. And we work every day. We work to make this state a better place to live for our families and everyone surrounding our communities. And hopefully, you can take that into consideration and kill this bill. It's not necessary today. But like I said, if you continue, be ready to be challenged, because it's gonna cost you some money. If you have money to spend, which you can explain it to the taxpayers that are looking at us right now through live TV. If they want you, their representatives, to spend their hard-earned money on legislation that is going to be challenged and will probably not succeed. Play it smart. Move forward. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add a point that I forgot to mention, and I had alluded to it, and it has to do with the inconsistencies on how this law could be applied across the state in each county. And, you know, for example, it's been said Milwaukee has been found in federal compliance. So if we have a sheriff that goes into the county and opens this case up, or a district attorney, which this bill empowers, and they decide we're not in compliance, what measure are we using? If the federal says we're in compliance, do we need a county to tell us we're in compliance? I mean, it really seems like a redundancy of government and oversight. The federal government needs to do its job and bring immigration reform, bottom line. And also, this body if this bill passes, how are you going to control how this law is being enforced when you have different counties that can enforce it in different manners, inconsistently in the state? I think it's a question that this body needs to answer and think about.
Yeah, we would follow, as we do now, the federal law, and Milwaukee was not in compliance until June, I believe it was. Now they're in compliance.
Right, they're in compliance.
They were out of compliance.
So what happens if a sheriff decides, which this bill empowers, decides we're not, and they take it to a judge? What measure is going to be used? Are they going to use the same measure at that county and say, because it empowers the sheriffs, it empowers the district attorneys to bring these cases, and it's the process. If there's a problem with having inconsistencies, for example, you might have a sheriff in Waukesha County that might be more eager to address some issues than in different counties. So there's going to be inconsistencies in how this law is going to be enforced, if it can be enforced. And that's all I have to say for the body. Thank you.
I want to bring up a point of interest now that you mentioned about Milwaukee County, the Sheriff's Department. People are not too many people are aware, but today, when Sheriff Clark was in office, he had an agreement, he has a contract with ICE to keep detainees at the county jail. So by doing that, automatically, anybody that gets processed in the Milwaukee County Jail gets screened for immigration status. And most likely, it's being done in Dutch County too, because they have a contract with ICE too. So what you're trying to do today, it's already in the process, in the courts, and in some county jails.
If I may take my organizer's hat off and just tell you a little bit about my personal story. I'm originally from Paraguay, from Asunción, Paraguay. I came to the United States probably very in a different, my immigration story is probably very different from most of the people who have spoken here. My father got a very good job in Glendale, Wisconsin, and I moved here when I was 16 years old. And when I went to high school, I didn't know English at the time and had to learn English. And then I was a citizen when I came here because my father was a U.S. citizen. And I graduated from Marquette University. I triple major. I did 2 master's degrees. And this year alone, because of the laws that have changed so much, when it comes to the way that people are treating immigrants, especially law enforcement, and with the issues that we have run in Milwaukee with the Mayor Tom Barrett and also the Chief Police Flynn. I have been stopped by the police 4 times this year alone, and I don't know if it is because of these changes, because of racial profiling on what is happening. And I'm a U.S. citizen, like I mentioned before. Yes, I'm brown skin. I have an accent because I'm not originally from here. And so one of the biggest fears that I have, because we have actually heard that some U.S. citizens have been deported, is that one day I get deported. And it's ridiculous that I should be thinking about deportation when I'm a U.S. citizen. My father is a U.S. citizen. I'm about to have my second child. They're gonna be 8th generation Wisconsinites, and it's just ridiculous to think that this is happening, and it's not just happening to undocumented people, because nobody has in their heads the word undocumented or documented. This could happen to anybody, and there were cases, like I said, of U.S. citizens getting deported, and years and years later, they found out that yes, they were actual U.S. citizens. They made a mistake. Yes, the state now has to give millions of dollars to that person because of all the damage that they had done. But this is again not an issue of just documented people. This is people everywhere. This is like I said, one time I had 4 patrols, 4 police cars on my back, and they said, "Oh, you had a light that was broken." I went to the mechanic. They said, "No lights are broken. They just stopped you for nothing. They didn't give me a ticket or anything." Another time, they stopped me to ask me where I was going. This was in South Milwaukee. I was actually going to visit the mayor because, this is part of my job. I go and talk to politicians. And when I said that to the police, then he let me go. But he was asking me just where I was going. I said, "What did I do? Did I make a mistake?" He said, "Oh, no, you didn't make any mistake. But we just want to know what you're doing here." And these are the kind of things that we as Latinos are going through, and it's very stressful. Very stressful. Like I said, I'm a mother. I'm pregnant now too, so it's devastating just the thought to think that I could get deported, and like I said, it's ridiculous being a U.S. citizen. And having done everything that supposedly I was supposed to be doing, going to school, going to college, getting a job, and so this is a concern, not just to me, but to my members. Like I said, we represent 150 Latinos in our organization, and many of them have asked me, should I still take my kids to school? Should I close my business? Should I be thinking about saving and sending money to Mexico? I don't have anybody there, but maybe somebody will help me if I get deported. This has been the issue since Donald Trump has been elected. And we just want to make sure that our communities, the people who are doing the right thing, that they stay in Wisconsin. They are making a better place to live and work, and we want to make sure that people feel safe, at least here. We know that in other states it's a whole different thing, but Wisconsin is my home, is the home of my children, and I hope that we can stay here. I really don't want to move, and I think most of us don't want to move. We want to stay here, and we want to make Wisconsin a better place for everyone, and yes, we need to enforce laws when people are doing bad things, when they're criminals, for sure. I agree with you on that. But when it comes to people who are doing the right thing, I think what we should be thinking about, instead of being in this hearing about, passing an anti-immigrant bill, we should be thinking about how can we help immigrants, get to work. And one of those things is they need driver licenses. And I think you have heard it many times today, right? And I hope that next time I come to this hearing, Senator Nass is actually trying to pass a bill to help immigrants have driver's licenses, which I understand is not a Republican or Democrat issue. Democrats were the ones who actually took the driver's licenses away from immigrants. I understand that. This is not a political issue. This is just an issue of immigrants trying to get to work, people who want to do the right thing. And I know you're not federal agents. You can't give them papers completely, but they just need to get to work, and that would be with the driver's licenses.
Right, and
So thank you.
it adds to public safety, and really, that's the need. I mean, think about it. If you went to France, would you get in a car and just start driving? No, you wouldn't know any of the rules of the road. It's just safer for all of us to have people that are on the road that knows the rules of the road. It's just safer for all of us. Safer for all of us to put our seatbelts on. It's safer for all of us to pay attention on the road. It's safer for all of us not to speed. It's just safer for all of our communities and safer for Wisconsin.
My last point. Back in late 1970, a lot of members of the Latino community back then, a lot of them were undocumented. But later on, they became legalized. So we need to look at this once again. There might be so many undocumented here in the state, but tomorrow could be legalized. So Wisconsin needs to welcome immigrants, can continue to welcome immigrants, especially when they're contributing to our society here in this state. This state runs by a budget. Latinos contribute to that budget. So why don't we get treated the same as everyone else, despite the color of our skin? We are Wisconsinites. And hopefully, this bill gets killed or tabled indefinitely. But I'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak today.
Do you have any questions?
I will just say I refrained. I got a lot of different stories, but I refrained from telling many of them in the essence of time. I will say I have been to France. And yes, I got in the vehicle and away I went. And in Italy.
You're braver than I am, sir.
And Guam.
I would call a cab. Sorry.
And so that's the way it went. And as far as police officer, my dad was a cop. Senator Weingart was a cop. I don't know how often this argument of being profiled, maybe it happens. I know the Walworth County Clerk of Courts who got stopped one night. She's Caucasian. It was probably 9 o'clock at night, maybe 10. And the reason she got stopped, she never used her title, nor would I if I got stopped. The reason she got stopped is the officer said that she had her brights on. She did not. So she didn't know why. Don't know. What triggered that stop? Don't know. She ended up, because I think there wasn't a reason, really. I don't think it happens a lot, and officers got a very difficult job. So she got a warning, verbal, and she was on her way. But I had an officer follow me during the daytime, and it actually ended up being kind of humorous. I zigzagged here and there, heading home, and he pulled me over, and I thought I didn't do anything wrong. However, it was a good stop because he was alert, and I do some beekeeping, and my smoker was in the back of the truck billowing smoke, and he didn't want me to blow up. So, and it wasn't going to, but I mean, that was so you never know. They got a difficult job, but I understand.
I understand, but if they have the power now to talk to ICE, and then they make a mistake, that's what I'm most afraid of, that they make a mistake, and then we damage people's lives because they make a mistake. And like you said, they have very difficult jobs. We should be enforcing criminal laws and in making sure that criminals are going to jail. But you know, if we enforce this law based on color of skin, which will be mainly the what they will look at to try to see if somebody is from Germany, they're not going to ask them if they're documented or not. That's the reality. The police is not going to ask that. Now, if you say that every single policeman has to ask every single person in Wisconsin if they have documents, that's a whole different story, right? But we know that that's not going to happen. This is going to create racial profiling, and that's what we're most concerned about.
Okay, well, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for your time.
Yep.